Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back for another wonderful episode of Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I have on a functional practitioner, a holistic health coach, if you will, Felicia Cafego, and we are talking all things related to PMS and period hacking and hormones and all these annoying things that we go through as women that just are kind of downers in our life, but there are so many ways that you can hijack your hormones, right? And like make them
Yeah.
work in your benefit. So thank you so much, Felicia, for coming on the show today. I'm really excited to have you.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share all the things because I feel like women do not have to suffer, and there are steps that you can take to move in the right direction.
hmm Absolutely. And you obviously are a woman yourself. And so your goal is to also help educate women. You're a mom, you're a wife. And so you are also responsible for people. Are your little ones, do you have little girls, little boys?
I have two little girls.
Okay, so extra
Yeah.
extra important for you that you can, teach them as they're growing into these ages and whatnot.
Yes, exactly. It's funny because they know exactly what a period is at 5 and 8 years old. And I feel like most
Mhm.
people are probably like, why are you teaching them that already? And I'm just like, because it's a part of life and they might as well be prepared to know that it's normal and what mommy does every single day to make my life better during this time.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation recently with somebody. It actually might have been on a recent podcast, but thinking through when we get our period for the first time and for kids that don't know that it's coming or what it is or anything like that, like how traumatic of an incident can that be? You're probably in middle school, maybe elementary school at this point, and all of a sudden like your girl parts, right? You probably don't even know that it's actually a vulva or a vagina or anything. It's probably your
Right.
cookie, your hoo-ha, your cuckoo, whatever. And all of a sudden this thing, this like sacred private part of your body starts bleeding. And I can't even imagine for just little girl, because girls are getting their period younger and younger nowadays, like what a scary time. So good for you for being a mom that does educate so early. I recommend this to all moms that are listening.
100.
I really don't think there's such thing as like too early to talk about this.
No, especially because actually when I had my first period, I got really sick and
Mm,
I had no idea what was going on with me. I was like really pale. I was weak for like a couple days. And then I remember going into the bathroom and there was blood everywhere. And my mom's, and I'm like, "Mom." And
mm-hmm.
she runs into the bathroom and she's like, "Oh, it started your period." And I'm like,
Yeah.
now what? Like, what? It's definitely
Yeah.
been an adventure. Obviously, every girl knows the adventure that it takes, like through, especially through middle school, through high school, when you're like learning how to manage everything. And it would just be really nice to be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, to know what exactly to expect from a period and also the level of the symptoms, right, that we experience, because then you put into play things like PCOS and endometriosis that, I remember I definitely had this conversation on a podcast, but I remember girls in, high school, middle school, like really what I thought like playing the period card, right? I can't participate in gym, I can't
Yeah,
do swim, I can't do this, like I'm staying home from school because it's so bad. And I used to make fun of those girls, and now, knowing them in their adult lives, they suffer from endometriosis and PCOS, right? And so no, again, knowing the level of what is to be expected, and then knowing your body well enough to know that something isn't right, and then to know who to go to talk about those things, right?
definitely. A lot of people will start their period and right off the bat, it just be horrible. Like
Mhm.
severe cramping, heavy bleeding, irregular periods, which is already like, you're already trying to prepare yourself to not start at school. And when you don't learn how to track it and you are very irregular, there's a rabbit hole you can go down. Like when, like, you starting your period at school and then you just like this whole time you never know when you're going to start, when really you can track it and you can figure out when you're going to start. And then to know that an irregular cycle is your body trying to tell you something,
Mhm.
that's information that you could take in. Even as a teenager, sometimes you might not care about things like that, but it's good to be knowledgeable about it so that at a point where you do become sick and tired of having irregular or painful or heavy periods, you can say, you know what, I was taught this a long time ago. I'm going to dive into this research
Mm.
and I'm going to figure out how I can figure out a way to start feeling better and to be more
Mhm.
prepared when my period does come, because I know it's very irregular.
Yeah. Yeah, and for moms again that are listening, how fucking cool for your kid to be the kid at school that is educated so that when her friends, for instance, have this issue, right? Like they know who to go to. I'm sure your girls are going to grow up like this. Like, no, my mom taught me at 5, and I had to have a friend teach me how to put in a tampon. I was raised by my dad. He definitely wasn't teaching
No.
me how to put in a tampon. So it's yeah, and I'm thankful to have that girlfriend during that time in again middle school. So
Yeah. And there's definitely other things nowadays too that are completely different. Like, tampons, the Diva Cup, period underwear. Like there's just a whole new realm too that there's options out there, because
Mhm.
if you do have really painful crampy periods, an option could be to ditch the tampons because sometimes they make it way worse.
Mm.
And you'll
Mhm.
almost get like instant relief, because this has happened to me in the past. Taking a tampon out and just getting instant relief in my whole abdomen area and just putting a pad on and saying, oh, like finally, like,
Mm.
there's some relief, the tightness will go down. And especially if you use fragranced tampons, those
Mm.
can cause even more inflammation down there. And then in turn, you get cramps. So
Mm.
that's something to think about too if you have really bad cramps during your period.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about you, Felicia. Like, how did you get into this profession and specifically wanting to hone in on the period talks and meal planning, all of that, hormone hacking stuff?
So I had my first daughter at 21, and I noticed a shift in my hormones then, but it was more of like a mental thing. And I didn't connect the pieces of it being postpartum and the cyclical depression that I was dealing with, because there were times where I was like completely, I'm fine, I'm good. I'm happy. And then next thing you know, like overnight, I'm sad again. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? And it wasn't until later on that I correlated it was with my cycle. So during my follicular phase, I'm fine, which is the first day of your bleed up until you ovulate. And then when you're done ovulating, you go into your luteal phase. And
Mhm.
a lot of the time, that's where women will start to suffer with moodiness or strong cravings and just irritability and stuff like that. And I started to realize like that this is what's happening.
Mm.
And so that's kind of how I got down the rabbit hole of regulating your hormones. But then after I had my second daughter, that's when I started dealing with heavy periods. And they were painful, they were heavy. My mood was getting even worse. Um, and it wasn't until then I went to the doctors and I was like, hey, like, I think that my mood and this heavy period and all this stuff is like all correlating with my hormones. Something's going on down there. And at this time, I really didn't know much about how much hormones can affect your bleed and your everyday mood throughout your entire monthly cycle. So they did a bunch of tests on me, and they did ultrasounds. They did ultrasounds inside, outside. They did some blood work to make sure like I wasn't anemic or anything like that because I was bleeding so much. And he was like, there's nothing wrong with you. I can't
Mhm.
find that one thing. And he went down the situation where this is normal for some women. And I was like, I refuse to believe that this is
Mhm.
normal. Like I was passing blood clots that were like the size of a golf ball. I'm like,
Mhm.
this is not normal. And so I was like, you know what? I appreciate you for doing all this testing for me, but I need to find a root cause of what's happening, and I can't justify just getting on birth control to regulate my symptoms, because that's just masking it, and I don't want to mask it. I want to figure out why this is happening to me. So just around that same time, I had a friend that I met in Washington. She messaged me because I posted on social media, like, has anybody else had this kind of problem? Like, what are you doing to fix it? And she messaged me and she's like, I'm starting this hormone program. I want you to be a part of it. I think it would be super helpful for you. And
Mm.
I was like, okay, I mean, why not? I've done some natural things in the past, like to help with other things, skin conditions, stuff like that. And I was like, why not? So I jumped in. It was like a 3-month program. And with all the education and the way my body healed within a month, I was like, I need to do this. Like this, there's not
Mm,
enough women in the world spreading this message. And I am like feeling very called to do this. So I found a school and I just graduated actually last summer. So July of
mm.
2022. And I was like, this is it. I'm the healthy period geek. I have to tell every single woman I can possibly tell.
Oh my gosh, what a great story. Yeah, and I 100% agree there. We need more women in the world that do this type of work, 100%, because when I started podcasting and started talking about period stuff and the questions and the DMs that I got about this and people like you, like having similar issues, right? I'm sure when you made that post, the floodgates opened of other women that were like, me too,
Dude.
essentially. Yeah. Wow.
Definitely.
Oh, well, I'm really excited to have you on again and to be talking about this. And um, so yeah, I don't even know where to dive in from here. I guess yeah, when you are working with women, what are the common things that you're seeing them? What are they coming to you with?
So the most common is fatigue. A lot of women complain of being completely exhausted, especially during around the time of their period, but not just during that time. Like I talked about before, when you have that shift from ovulation to the luteal phase, you'll start to feel more tired because estrogen goes down and testosterone goes down. Um, Testosterone is motivation, estrogen is feeling confident and ready to go, and your skin's bright, and you're most likely going to want to have sex a lot of the time during that estrogen peak. And then that goes down. And what's supposed to happen is progesterone is supposed to go up. And progesterone is your relaxing and staying calm. And it's supposed to start, getting your body ready to start your period. But a lot of the time, progesterone is not showing up the way it should.
Mm,
So women are exhausted. And a lot of the time, because progesterone's not showing up, it's stress a lot of the time. And I'm talking like it could be emotional stress, it could be physical stress. So women who don't nourish their bodies enough with enough calories and work out really hard, that can cause stress on your hormones and that can cause progesterone to be low. Or like moms who take care of children constantly and don't have any self-care routine daily. It's not just about, because I hear a lot of women, they'll always talk about, let me go to the grocery store without the kids and that's my break. I'm like, that is not a break. You need way more than that and you need it daily. So
mhm.
like things like me as a mother, I journal every morning, and it's like a guided journal because I'm not great at creating these things in my head. So I do that. I spend time in nature because it kind of gives me a reset. That's just how I am. And I've over time also have stopped talking to myself in negative ways. Like, you're not doing enough. Why didn't you clean the dishes at 5 o'clock like you're supposed to? Or why didn't you do a load of laundry today? Like things like that. Or I just have stopped doing, and I've like rewired my brain to say, you know what? You woke up this morning, you made yourself a nourishing breakfast, and you had coffee after your breakfast, which is super important because coffee in the morning before breakfast can actually cause your cortisol to rise, which is a stress hormone. And you don't want to play games with cortisol. You want to wake up, nourish your body, then have the coffee, because usually when cortisol goes up really high, it will come back down and then you're going to suffer from a crash. So
Mm,
constant highs and lows of cortisol is what eventually leads to depleted cortisol. And then you're not going to be feeling any energy at all.
mm,
And every single time you take a movement into self-care, you're basically balancing your hormones because you're putting your body in a less stressful state. Because when cortisol is constantly going and you're constantly trying to, like, I need to get this done, I need to do this, I have to do this, and you're in fight or flight mode, basically,
mhm,
your body can't tell the difference between a tiger coming at you or, all this stress that you're putting on your body. It just knows like you're stressed out. And when your body's in a state of stress, you're not going to create progesterone and estrogen and testosterone, all your sex hormones, because
mhm.
when you're in a stressful state, are you thinking about having sex or
Nope.
making babies? So in order for you to create those hormones, you need to slow down and put your body in a parasympathetic state, basically. Your nervous system needs to be in a state of calmness in order to create sex hormones.
Mm. Ugh, I wish I could fist pump and snap and clap and do all the things because, oh, this is so good. I'm very excited for people to hear this. And so you mentioned the luteal phase. I want to like double click on that for a minute because luteal phase for me specifically, I'm gonna get a little personal, but it is the fucking worst. It is
Yeah.
like my mood is bad. My husband could just look at me and I want to throat punch him. And and now he now is, tracks my cycle with me. And so he knows at least now when it's coming. But before that, it was like he's like, "Do you even love me anymore?" I'm being a little dramatic when I say that, but then also like food wise, I just said this last night because I'm currently in luteal. I'm like, I'm in my tapeworm phase. I feel like I could eat and eat and eat and not get full in this phase. And then I'm generally craving things that are not healthy for me, right? Like sweets
Mhm.
and chocolates and things like that. So what would you say specifically for luteal phase? What tips or guidance do you have for people? Because it is the longest phase that we're in when it comes to our menstrual cycle, and generally not the most favorite for most people, I would say.
Yeah, definitely not. Unless you're a big introvert and you're like, yes, I get to like huddle in and stay in my house and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
um, so when it comes to, which you're not the only one, by the way, a lot of
Hmm.
women, myself even, suffer with the crazy luteal phase. So there's like a few things that you can dive into when it comes to food. One, sweet potatoes. They actually boost progesterone. So
Mm,
one, you're getting those carbs that you're craving with sweet potato, and you're getting the sweetness that you're craving as well. So that's something that you can introduce to your diet daily, or how often you want during that phase. And then two would, I don't know if you've ever heard of seed cycling.
mm-mm,
So the way it works is during the luteal phase, you have sesame seeds and sunflower seeds, 1 tablespoon of each a day. And the nutrients inside of those seeds are supposed to align with what your body needs to be
mm,
nourished at that point in time. So during that phase, you would eat a tablespoon of each of those a day. And you can do it however you want. You can just shove them in your mouth. I will actually grind them up and sprinkle it on whatever I have throughout the day.
mm,
That is supposed to help balance your hormones, to help relieve some of the symptoms that you get during that
mm,
phase. And then there is also regulating your blood sugar to get rid of those crazy sweet, like hangry
mm.
cravings. Because I've been through that too, and it wasn't until I started to regulate my blood sugar that I started to notice a huge shift. So there's a lot of hacks that you could do to regulate your blood sugar, and it's mostly eating a balanced meal. So like healthy fats, fiber, and protein with every meal, and make sure you're not depleting yourself of, the adequate amounts of protein that you need. Some people think that you can run off of 1,000 calories a day, and that's just not how it
Mhm.
works. You
Yeah.
want at least 15 to 1,800 as a woman. And that's with nourishing foods though, not filling up
Mhm.
on junk food and stuff like that. Um, Also trying to avoid snacking, and by doing that, giving yourself 4 to 5 hours in between each meal so that you're burning fuel instead of constantly giving your body like ups and downs of your sugar, like insulin and glucose and stuff like that. You want to keep your waves like small. So
Mhm.
in order to do that, you have to kind of control on in between meals. So no snacking, wait 4 to 5. And it's the best way to do that is to make sure that you're getting adequate amount of calories and protein and fat with the first meal of the day and the second meal of the day and the third meal of the day. There's also getting movement in. So right after you eat, move around for 10 minutes before
Mm.
that next hour is up. Whether that's getting up and like cleaning something that breaks a sweat, or going outside and walking your dog, lifting some weights real quick, doing squats for 10 minutes, like whatever you can think of, just get some movement in, because muscle burns and it'll help the body keep going.
Hmm.
So, and then there's also fiber. So say you do want a piece of cake. There's like 2 ways you can regulate your blood sugar by eating something sugary. One, you drink a glass of water mixed with 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. It's going to help regulate your blood sugar. I know a lot of people don't like it.
Oh,
You could
my
use
best
white vinegar
friend
too,
loves
but
it. Yeah, she drinks it every single morning, like as a shot. I'm like, you are fucking insane. Just thinking about it, I'm just want to gag. But
well,
for somebody, thank you for that tip. I don't mean to yuck anybody's yum. Um,
no, I
but
have a lot of people that tell me that. They're like, "No way. I can't do the
yeah,
vinegar thing." My husband
oh
doesn't even like pickles. He hates vinegar so much.
yeah.
But
So
the
what
other thing
is option two?
option 2 is eating fiber before you eat the sugary thing. So, take a handful of raw carrots and fill your belly up with the carrots or a salad or anything and a salad with a I don't know if you can handle like a vinegary vinaigrette
Mm,
on the salad because that would be helpful too. But even if you just eat fiber, so carrots, broccoli, anything like that, what's going to happen is the fiber stops the sugar from hitting you like a tank. So
mm,
it'll trickle in slowly instead of just being like whoop and then giving you like a super high spike of blood sugar and then it goes right back down and when it goes up and down and dips really low, that's when the hangriness kicks in. That's when you get hungry again and you're like, I just ate like 2 hours ago. Why am I still hungry? Why do I
mm-hmm,
feel like I need to eat the whole fridge right now? It's because you had a huge blood sugar spike and it dipped down way below the baseline. That's usually what
mm.
happens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm. So good. So aside from luteal phase, and I know you have a guide on this. I was seeing on your link tree, you have a cycle meal prepping plan that you offer people, right? For $80 or something like that.
So I just launched that. That I wanted to create something to help women at a lower cost because it has a meal plan. It has a 3-week meal plan that's like geared towards eating for your cycle, like how I've talked about. So like a lot of liver supporting foods, which you need to help detox estrogen,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of just nourishing foods for the adrenals, for your brain. Like it just kind of supports the full body with an emphasis on regulating your hormones. And then I put in there like an intuitive eating guide because I want women to understand that this is not just the next diet. These are just foods that are nourishing you, that are going to make you feel
Mm-hmm.
good, that are going to regulate your hormones. And what else did I put in there? I put like a meal plan guide too. So like there's 3 weeks of meal plans, but then for the 4th week I wanted to encourage you to create your own. So it's kind of like a guide on how to create your own to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that you're getting the tad bits of foods that help with each support during your hormones.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's a private Facebook group too for everybody who decides that they want it so that if you have any questions, I'm there to answer them. And it's more of like a group setting, so it's not
Yeah.
one-on-one, but I show up live once a month and say, give me all your questions. What are you struggling with? Let me coach you through these things.
Mm-hmm.
And because I believe that you can have all the tools that you want, but if you're not having someone there to support you and guide you, it's going to be hard. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
rough. And I don't ever want somebody to have to experience the loneliness that can come with shifting your lifestyle because a lot of people that you might leave behind might not understand, like why are you all of a sudden saying no more often,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So I wanted to be
Yeah.
more supportive.
Yeah. I was checking that out before we were recording. It's definitely going to be on my future purchasing list because I think it looks awesome. And I'm glad that you said too that this is not a diet, whatsoever. However, when you look at the foods that are recommended to eat, right, they're generally clean, like you said, protein, good fatty type of meals. And so I'm assuming you don't have things like have a Kit Kat for your snack or, like things like that. I mean, of course, if you want the sweets, eat the sweets. You've already gave us the hacks around that. But that's what I found when I've been more health conscious in trying to eat for my cycle better. In general, it's healthier eating. And so then I noticed the side effects of that maybe some people are wanting.
Yeah, it's almost immediate. Like for me, like the heavy bleeding, it was just eating more leafy greens, eating more
Mm-hmm.
kale, eating more bok choy and collard greens. And I would cook collard greens with bacon and just, and that's so good to me.
Mhm.
And I just started eating more of that continuously. And by my next period, I was not heavy anymore. And I was like, that's when it was just like, woo, epiphany, like, oh my God, how does nobody know about this?
Mhm. Yeah. So you've shared so many resources with us in ways of kind of hacking our hormones essentially. What would you say are your two favorites, or if somebody was going to start, you know, if somebody would want to start small, what would be the first two things that you would recommend for them to do?
Definitely the food choices. Start
Mhm.
thinking about nourishing your body instead of losing weight. Like, ditch that mentality. Think about, is this meal going to make me feel good after I eat it? Because one, not only are you going to make healthier choices, two, you're going to start to notice what feels good for your body because it might not be the same for everybody.
Mhm.
And then you'll be able to recognize that and make better choices into the future. So definitely stick to the outside aisles where
Mm.
there's fresh produce, there's protein, there's, you know, cheese is not bad. Dairy's not bad in my opinion, but if you're intolerant to it or sensitive to it, then it can become an issue. And that's just something that you'd want to recognize. Like, oh, every single time I put cheese on my salad, I don't really feel that good, but it's a salad. So why don't I feel good?
Mm.
That's something that you want to recognize so that you can avoid that into the future. If you have like a big day, you know what I mean? You don't want to set yourself up for failure by eating the cheese and then feeling like crap afterwards.
Mhm.
And then another tip or another like moving forward is just getting sleep.
Mm.
Getting 8 hours of sleep. If you need 9 hours, get it. If you need 10 hours, get sleep. Um, don't make yourself stay up super late at night because it messes with your entire body. Sleep is so important. If you're the type of person that stays up till midnight and you're like, I can't do 10 o'clock, that's just crazy. Just try working backwards and like, if depends on how you are, but you can do like, all right, I'm going to bed at 11:55 tonight, lights out, like, and then the next night 11:50, like just kind of work your way
Mhm.
backwards and try to get a good night's sleep. Don't put yourself in a stressful state before you go to bed. Amazon has some really cheap blue light blockers that you can buy that will
Mm.
help melatonin production, and that's your sleep hormone. That's what's going to get you quality sleep, make you want to fall asleep. So darkness helps. The blue light blockers help if you watch TV before you go to bed, and having the temperature around like 69, having it on the colder side helps with better sleep as well.
Mm. Yeah. One thing that we started doing too, we changed the light bulbs in our room to red lights, well, color changing light bulbs, more so for sexual purposes, but red lights at night also help the brain produce more melatonin as well. And so that's been really nice for us as well. And we've stopped watching TV altogether before bed, which has been really, really great. Personally, for me, my husband he loves watching TV, but like
My husband could fall asleep
regulated.
with the TV on, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
same, same.
I'm not
Ugh.
getting woken up at 2 a.m. by some weird thing happening on the TV. Because I
Yeah,
will wake up.
yeah, same. And it's usually something scary. And I'm like, I don't do scary. And I definitely don't want it at 2, 3 in the morning when you're asleep. And now I'm up alone staring at the ceiling thinking like Michael Myers is coming through our window any minute.
Right. For me, it's like panicking with the children. Like, where's the children? What's going on with the
Mhm.
children? Like, and then I'm like, my adrenaline's up, and I'm like, man, now, like, how am I supposed
Yeah.
to fall back asleep after this? And it takes a while.
Oh, yeah. Life, I'm telling you. Well,
It's
this has been such a great conversation, Felicia. And if people are wanting to contact you, and you're local to me, so we have a lot of Michigan people that listen to the podcast, which is great. Um, and yeah, so how can they find you and work with you and get these awesome resources that you have on your link tree?
So I'm on Instagram, at healthy period geek. That's where I pretty much, if you just Google it, you'll find me.
Hmm.
Or my name, because my last name is so rare, Felicia Cafego. Um, yeah, I'm on Instagram a lot. My email is my name at Gmail. You can contact me there. I have a link in my link tree to set up a call with me, and the calls are just like, what are your problems, and what are you dealing with? And then if I have something that I think I could offer you to help you, then I just tell you like, hey, this is what I got. Are you feeling called to it? maybe think on it, get back to me, whatever you want to do. Yeah. And then I do have a TikTok as well, but I changed the name on it to Root for Wellness because I was kind of playing with it, but it is going to go back to Healthy Period Geek on February 3rd.
Okay. So by the time this episode airs, it will be Healthy Period Geek everywhere.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. This was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Appreciate your time, and thank you wholeheartedly for the work that you're doing because it is very, very needed.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun and I love educating women. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.